Hello friends, welcome to Environmental Science. Unit 2 Ecosystems. Under Ecosystems, in this video we are going to see the introduction, types, characteristic features, structure and the functions of forest ecosystem. Introduction to forest ecosystem. Forests are formed by a community of plants which is predominantly structurally defined by its trees, shrubs, climbers and ground cover. The most natural and undisturbed forests are located mainly in our national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. The forest ecosystem has two parts, that is, and the biotic factors and the abiotic factors are the non-living and the living aspects. Here, the first one is non-living or abiotic aspects of the forest. Under this, the type of forest depends upon the abiotic conditions at the site, and forests on mountains and hills differ from those at the river valleys. And the vegetation is specific to the amount of rainfall of the particular region and the local temperature, which varies according to the latitude and altitude. And forests also vary in their plant communities in response to the type of soil also. The second one is the living or biotic aspects of the forest. Here, the plants and animals are specific to each type of forest. For instance, the coniferous trees occur only in Himalayas or the cool climate of hill stations. Mangrove trees occur in the river deltas, and the thorn trees grow in arid areas, that is arid means dry areas, and the snow leopard lives in the Himalayas, while the leopard and tiger live in the forest of the rest of the India. Wild sheep and goats live high up in the Himalayas, and many of the birds of Himalayan forests are different from the rest of India. And evergreen forests of the Western Ghats and Northeast India are most rich in plant and animal species. The biotic components includes both the large, that is the macrophytes, large and the microscopic plants and animals. Plants include the trees, shrubs, climbers, grasses and herbs in the forest. That is, these include the flowering plants, that is angiosperms, and the non-flowering species or plants such as the ferns, bryophytes, fungi and algae. The animals include the species of mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, fish, insects, and other invertebrates, and a variety of microscopic animals. And the next one is the forest types in India and their characteristic features and structure. Here, the forest types depends upon the abiotic factors such as climate and the soil characteristics of the region. Forests in India can be broadly divided into the coniferous forest and broad-leaved forests. They can also be classified according to the nature of their tree species. Nature of the tree occur in the forest, that is evergreen forest, deciduous forest, xerophytic forest which contain thorn trees, and mangrove forest, and etc. Now let us see the type of forest and their characteristic features one by one. Here the first one is coniferous forest. Coniferous forests grow in the Himalayan mountain region where the temperatures are low. These forests have tall trees with needle-like leaves and downward sloping branches. The branches of the trees will be sloping downwards, so that when the snow forms on the branches or leaves can slip off easily from the branches, so that the plant can be protected from the effect of snow. And they produce reproductive cones instead of the seeds like other plants, and they are called gymnosperms. Here, broad-leaved forests. These broad-leaved forests have several types such as evergreen forest, deciduous forest, thorn forest and mangrove forest. These broad-leaved forests have large leaves of various shapes. The next one is evergreen forest. The evergreen forests grow in the high rainfall areas of the Western Ghats and northeastern India and the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So these forests grow in areas where the monsoon is lost for several months. And the evergreen forest plants shed only a few of their leaves throughout the year. So the entire plant will not lose their leaves. Instead, only a few of the leaves of the plant will be falling down. Hence, there is no dry leafless phase in the plant life cycle of the plant. An evergreen forest thus looks green throughout the year. The forest is rich in the plants like orchids and ferns, and the barks of the trees are covered by the plant called moss, that is the bryophyte plants. Next, the deciduous forest. These deciduous forests are found in the regions with a moderate amount of seasonal rainfall. So, this seasonal rainfall will last only for a few months of the year, and most of the forest in which teak trees grow are of this type. That is the deciduous type of forest. And the deciduous trees shed their leaves during the winter and also during the hot summer months, and again in the month of March or April they regain their fresh leaves just before the onset of monsoon. Next one, the thorn forest. Here the thorn forests are found in the semi-arid regions of India, and the trees in thorn forest are sparsely distributed. That is, they are not densely distributed, so loosely distributed, and they will be surrounded by open grassy areas. And the thorny plants are also called as the xerophytic species and are able to conserve water. Some of these trees have small leaves, while the other species have thick, waxy leaves. That means the leaves will have a waxy coating or to reduce the water loss by means of transpiration. And the thorn forest trees have long roots to reach out the water at greater depths from the ground. And many of these plants have thorns which reduce the water loss and protect the plant from being eaten by the herbivores. And next one is the mangrove forest. So these mangrove forests grow along the coastal regions, especially in the river deltas. These plants are able to grow in a mixture of saline and fresh water. They grow luxuriantly in the muddy areas covered with the silt that was brought down by the rivers to that place. And the mangrove trees have breathing roots. Since they are the root will be immersed in the saline water. In order to breathe, they produce the breathing roots which will come above the water level, and then the mangrove forest reduce the impact of tsunami by reducing the height and velocity of the incoming waves. In the upcoming slides, we are going to see the functions of forest ecosystem. Forest utilization. Natural forests provide the local people with a variety of products if the forest is used carefully. And the over-exploitation of fuel wood or timber wood or the other products affect the traditional local people, and the forest is completely degraded by all these means. Then the natural forest ecosystems play an important role in controlling the local climate and water regimes. Um, and then during the monsoon, the forest retains a large amount of moisture and slowly releases it through the perennial streams during the rest of the year. That is, the streams running throughout the year will get the water from the forest so that the stream will be filled with water throughout the year. Forest products. Here, the direct uses of forest products. The forest dwellers are the people live in and around the forest, and the agricultural people use these goods directly. They are the fruits and roots of plants and medicinal plants. Then the fuel wood and small timbers for building their huts and houses, and then fodder for the domestic animals, and wood for farm implements, making small farm implements, and bamboo and cane for baskets, and grass for their cattle to grass. And now the indirect uses of forest products. Here, The building materials required for the construction and making furniture for the urban sector is obtained from the forest, and then the medicinal products. And the medicinal products are collected and processed into drugs and medicines, and the gums and resins which are processed into a variety of products and also becomes the raw materials for the industrial products and chemicals. And paper is made from the bamboo and softwoods, and these forest products are of great economic value as they are collected, sold and marketed. And the other people who are living away from the forest or who depend upon the forest get the forest products indirectly from the market. The next one, the forest services. The forest control the flow of water in streams and rivers. And the forest cover also reduces the surface runoff water and allows groundwater to be stored so that the groundwater can be stored in the forest then and there wherever the rain comes. And by this the forest prevent the soil erosion, and the forest regulate the local temperature, and most importantly forests absorb the carbon dioxide and release oxygen that is very important for our human breathing. And many of our new medicines, modern day medicines, are coming from the wild plants. Next, the threats to the forest ecosystem. As forests grow very slowly, we cannot use more resources than they can produce during a growing season, because human beings destroy the forest very quickly than the forest grows. And if the timber is felled beyond a certain limit, the forest cannot regenerate, and more goods are manufactured from the raw materials obtained from the forest, and wood is illegally extracted from many forests. And the developmental activities such as the rapid population growth together with the urbanization and industrialization and the increasing use of consumer goods, all these things activities leads to the overutilization of forest. Hence the forests are coming under threat. And moreover, the increasing use of wood for timber, wood pulp for paper, and the extensive use of fuel wood results in a continual loss of forest. And the forests are also lost by the process of mining and construction of dams. And as the forest resources are exploited, the ecosystem is getting degraded and becomes wasteland, and the plants and animals in the forest are seriously threatened and become extinct at one time. And then afterwards, these can never be brought back to the ecosystem. What will happen if the forest disappear? When the forests are cut down, the tribal people who depend directly on the forest find it very difficult to survive. So the survival of the tribal people is in question, and the agricultural people do not get enough firewood and small timber, etc., for making their houses and farm implements. And then the urban people who depend on food from the agricultural areas have to pay a higher price for their food as the human population is growing continuously. Insects such as bees, butterflies, and moths will be decreased. Hence, the pollination of agricultural crops and fruit trees will be affected. When the pollination gets affected, this leads to a decrease in the agricultural yields. And then rainwater cannot be retained or stored under the ground, will lead to water scarcity, and soil erosion will occur, and then the wild animals will lose their habitat, and the most precious species of plants and animals will become extinct. How can the forest ecosystem be conserved? Here, we can conserve forest only if we use its resources judiciously and carefully. This can be done by using the alternative sources of timber and firewood, and there is a need to grow more trees than they are cut down. And afforestation, that is planting of more trees. Afforestation needs to be done continuously, from which only the fuel wood and timber wood can be judiciously used, and the natural forest with all the diverse species must be protected as are protected in the national parks and wildlife sanctuaries only, because where all the plants and animals can be preserved. So far in this video under forest ecosystems, we have seen the introduction to forest, types of forest, characteristic features of forest, and structure and functions of forest. Thank you.